Successful Minds with Patricia Baronowski-Schneider, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Successful Minds with Patricia Baronowski-Schneider is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Patricia Baronowski-Schneider.
Hey, are you looking to scale your business from 5 figures to 6 figures or 6 figures to 7 figures? If you are, I have the perfect thing for you. What I want you to do today is I want you to go download a book. This book is going to take you through my 3-pillar system. It's 100% free. All you have to do is go to growfast.cash. I say again, go to growfast.cash and you're going to be able to download my free international best-selling book, which is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. You can take that book. It's going to help you scale your business to the next level. Again, go download it. Be good, be brief, be gone. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome back to Successful Minds. I'm your host, Patty Baronowski-Schneider. Today I'm joined by Bill Becker, an author and career consultant. So welcome, Bill. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Patty. I evangelize about sales careers. When I retired in November of 2022, that was one of my main goals. Sales, I think, is the most equitable career out there. Why? Because there's no barrier to entry, no education requirements. You don't need experience. And it's the one job out there today, I think, to give anyone, literally anyone, a future and an income that they can be proud of. Mm-hmm. And then I also advocate on some homeless issues as well.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny because I'm not your typical salesman. I just don't have that gift. But when people say, like, with AI and all that, it's going to take over the world, sales becomes more personable. So you have to kind of connect with people. AI can't do that. So I agree with you there. It's something that's here to stay.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now, what first drew you to a career in sales, and how did you transition into evangelizing about sales careers?
Sure. So that's why the book is named The Job Nobody Dreams Of, because nobody grows up wanting to be a salesperson. Yeah. At first, I wanted to be a veterinarian. I was really into dogs, dog shows, 4-H and all that. And then I realized, how long do I have to go to college?
Sounds just like me.
And so I had this love of music. I thought, I will be a radio DJ. Then I found out they don't make any money, unless you make it into New York or Los Angeles. So I did the next best thing. I went into radio sales. Still got to hang out at the radio station. And I did that for about 16 years. When I started, I did the traditional radio advertisers, car dealers, furniture stores, things like that. And then I decided I want to kind of differentiate myself from all the other salespeople, including the ones at my own station. So I went after what was called non-traditional revenue. So I went after packaged good manufacturers and things like that. Yeah. And one of those non-traditional revenue streams was recruitment advertising, help wanted ads on the radio. Okay. And by the end of my radio career, I was doing that. That was my whole sole focus, was recruitment advertising. And then I flipped that into another job with another company for recruitment advertising, where it did radio stations all over the country. And I had this big database of HR directors and everything. It's like, what else could I sell them? And I started, well, people need trained. And so that's kind of how I got into the IT training field, which I spent my last, 20 some years of my career. If you do the math, 20 and 16, it's weird. I started this when I was 6 years old. I don't want anyone to think I'm old.
You sound so much like me. Same with the veterinarian. I wanted to do that so much as a kid. I loved animals. And I was like, wait, how much? I hated school. I was like, how many years I got to go to school? I was like, yeah, no, plan B.
It's, and today it's a really rough profession. It's a brutal profession for multiple reasons.
Yeah. I couldn't bear the thought of like hurting an animal, giving it a needle and all that. So I always let the
Yep.
pros do that.
Yep.
So now tell us, what inspired you to start promoting sales careers, and why do you believe that they offer hope and a bright future to those who might not otherwise have it?
So I have lived it.
Yeah.
So that I call it my bad day. So earlier, in my life, I went through a tough divorce. I'm not certain that there's anything but. And I was really down, and I gave up. And I gave up my dog. I headed to a bridge, and luckily I got stopped by a police officer, and I got a second chance. And that's when I got into the last company I worked for. I actually had contacted this person, one of the owners, and asked for a referral, or like a letter of recommendation. And she goes, no. She goes, I want to hire you. And so I rebuilt my life from financial ruin, and I had an amazing run there. I got to do great things for myself. Even more important, I did great things for other people. I helped so many people, and it was kind of a dopamine rush when you can just do little things for people, but it's big for them, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so I just kind of like back when I very first started this whole thing with sales careers, it was right after 9/11. I was selling computer advertising. I was selling computer training.
Okay.
And all these people that were going through that had been laid off. And I started thinking, you know what? They never lay off salespeople. Now that's not true today, and we can get into that. But it's like, why don't people want to be a salesperson? It's like, because no one grows up wanting to be a salesperson. And so when I got to the end of my career, it's like, I want to get this message out there, because what's happening today, you have unemployment and you also have underemployment. And I can make a case that in certain respects, unemployment's better than unemployment. And I'll tell you why. If you're unemployed, at least you have the hope. It's like, at some point I'm going to get a job and everything's going to be okay. Then you find yourself working 40 hours a week, just killing yourself and either barely making ends meet or still not making ends meet. And you just don't see a future. You don't have a lot of hope.
Right.
And sales, regardless of whether it's IT sales, whether it's ag sales, whatever, it's the only job that you can get with a company who's not actually hiring. I did that several times. It's the only job where you can make more money than your boss. And it's also the only job where you could actually go out and create your own job and then sell it to the company of your choice. And I did that a couple times. So I wanted to go out there and evangelize and, say, hey, there are, options out there.
Right. Yeah, you definitely will have to touch on some of that.
Sure. Yeah. There's some things that I never planned on when I started this, that, certain areas that have becoming, amazing. And yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, I admire people who are like really good salesmen. Like I've been on the other side of them, and I was always like, I just don't have that skill, and I don't know if it's something that's easily trained or it's just in you to be that person, but it definitely is a skill.
It is a skill, but you already have it. You know what the skill is? Conversation. So I always tell people, and when I was working, it's like, I don't sell anything. I'll give you the clean version. I figure stuff out. Meaning, so the last, part of my career, I didn't convince anybody they needed our IT services. Instead, I went out and found people who were already in the market and showed them why I was the best option. And that's really important when I say I was the best option.
Right.
Not necessarily my company. My company is part of the reason why I was the best option, and this is why AI is never going to replace salespeople, because you're right. It is about conversations. And if you think about it, you sell yourself when you go on a job interview. You sell yourself when you're asking someone out on a date. Right. It's just having a conversation. That product knowledge, what you don't know, you can be taught. I mean, I kind of made it part of my persona over my career that, sometimes I refer to myself as the idiot sales guy. And I actually had the person who hired me on my last job, she said, you might kind of tone down the self-deprecation. I go, it's served me well.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that people didn't think I wasn't smart
Right.
or I wasn't knowledgeable. And this is a pretty important point. When I didn't know, I would say I don't know.
Yeah.
But I will get back to you by the end of the day. And that's one of the biggest things that has probably surprised me for my entire career. Every single week, I got praised for how fast I responded to someone's email or phone call. And it's like, at first I was like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I'm just doing my job. And then it dawned on me, it's like, it's awesome that evidently most salespeople don't do that.
Yeah.
So a moron like me can stand out. And I actually had a separate mailbox in my Outlook of all those emails that were praising me.
No.
And it's like, and so I knew more than when I started as far as the product knowledge, but I say I don't know, or I knew there's going to be technical questions in a meeting, so I bring a sales engineer with me.
Yeah.
People are not really buying what you're selling. They're not interested in the features or benefits. This is professional sales, business to business. They're buying peace of mind. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. If you go out and buy the wrong TV, you're out a few $100, maybe a couple thousand. You buy the wrong grill, you're out some money. If you make the wrong mistake purchasing something for your company, it could cost you your job. So people want to feel good about the decision they're making. And the only way they get that is feeling good about the person they're talking to. The internet has actually made it easier to be a good salesperson because they're going to do the research before they want to speak to a person, right?
Right.
So the fact that you actually get a meeting with somebody is a good sign, because if they weren't interested, 99% of the time, they're not going to meet with you.
Right.
You would rather people say, no, I'm not in the market, than just being nice and go, okay, I'll give you 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's a waste of your
Waste of
time. You don't want
yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, it is true where I think people appreciate it because you're real. Most people will start fumbling and making up stories, but it's better to just say, I don't know, but let me get back to you, I'll get an answer. And how people, how you're connecting with them. I can't tell you how many times, like, it's funny with my company, Pristine Advisors, it's ERS. We're not financial advisors, we're not your broker, blah, blah, blah. But people don't even take the time to research what it is I do. So more often than not, I'm getting pitched stuff to pitch me what I already do. Like, okay. And then some salespeople are sending emails to me and everybody else, and we're sharing the emails. It's the exact same thing. They just cut and paste the name. And it's like, that's sloppy, and they don't think people talk. I mean, it's, so I think people do appreciate that you're being real, you're being honest, and, you're communicating with them in a way that is beneficial to them, because if you're just putting a boilerplate thing back and forth to everybody, you could see that,
Absolutely. And the part of where I said I figured it out. So in my case, I was selling a platform used to design, develop, and deliver hands-on labs for software training. So it's a long process, the buying process and the onboarding. And so you're doing multi conversations, you're talking to your prospect, you're dealing with security, you're dealing with purchasing. They call it multi-threading, but it's multiple conversations. And the same thing, you can't leave us overnight. It's not like a paper company where you can go change suppliers the next day. So you're going to have a lot of conversations. And I was fortunate. I think I earned it that, by the end of my career, I know because I still keep in contact with customers that, it's been almost 2 years.
Wow.
I even had customers play tricks on me that just to show how much I was appreciated.
But that is really cool, because you never know who knows somebody. So if you made a good impression with someone and you were honest, and it's one thing if you have a salesman come and sell you some crap and then they leave and now you're like, that person left a bad taste in your mouth. You remember that. But if you did right by somebody, Well, now they might know somebody else in the industry who's looking for something. I'll be like, let me put you in touch with this guy. So those, relationships can last a lifetime, and
That
passing it on.
is
Yeah.
that is so true. I talk about one person in my book, a family friend, that he was selling men's clothing. And one of his customers was somebody in the oil and gas business. And he was so impressed with him that he hired him to join the company. And he got to retire far earlier than me. And so you're right. And that's the big thing too, that sales, I don't want to say sales skills, but because it's a really conversation, but it is transferable.
Yeah.
I sold radio advertising and IT services.
Yeah.
And I'm not a nerd.
Yeah.
So this is important because it's like, it's nice when I talk to people. It's like, well, what sales job should I go for? It's like, well, first, what are your interests? Because it would be nice, but you don't have to. And I use myself as an example that I was very close with our help desk because I always protected them and did little favors for them. And so they invited me to a virtual happy hour because the company I worked for was virtual from day one.
Okay.
And so showed up and they're sitting there talking about the latest video game or software. And I'm just like, does anyone want to talk about sports? But they had that passion for it and I didn't. But I was super successful. And then when you talk about personalities that, I don't think I'm a people person. But at the very least, I can fake it, right?
Yeah.
But so I was the top salesperson at the company I left. The person below me, and now is the top salesperson.
Nice.
He was a project manager before he got into sales. And so he was very detailed oriented. I still joke with him, how he loves his spreadsheets and his PowerPoint slides. That is a badge of honor for me. My entire career, I never made one PowerPoint slide. I came close. Our CEO asked me to put one together. And so I did it all up in a Word document and sent it to him. And he goes, I asked for this in a PowerPoint slide. So I sent it to a coworker and had them put it into a PowerPoint slide. And then I sent it to him.
But it is true what you say about being transferable. It's kind of like, I do marketing and I've worked with companies around the world in every niche under the sun, where some people are focused on just technology, just, oil and gas, whatever. And I always say marketing's marketing. The only thing that changes is the story, who you're telling it to and how you're telling it. Yep. You have to be passionate about creating a story and putting yourself in the audience shoes and blah, blah. But it's like the whole process is pretty much the same. It's just who you're telling it to, how you're telling it. And people think I'm nuts when I say that. I'm like, I've been doing this. And again, 35 years, considering I'm only 25, it's bizarre. But, it's like, I must be doing something right,
Yeah, for sure.
It's transferable. But yeah.
Well, and, I have always said the essence of selling is what can you do for me and who else says so?
Yeah.
And that allows you to bring in, current customers' success stories. For us, it was nice because who else says so? Well, Microsoft, AWS, a lot of big companies that it's like, and those people will think, okay, well, they gave you the sign of approval, so you must have something to you.
Something, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So even if you're starting out as a brand new salesperson, that you're going to learn about current customers, and then you can share those stories with your prospects.
Right. I guess, speaking of the sales misconceptions, what are some common misconceptions about sales careers, and how do you address them in your work?
That you have to be a big time people person, that it's high pressure, that, it's all about tricking people, trying to get people to buy stuff that you don't want. Again, it's just simply having a conversation. Are there jobs out there like that? Yeah, but they're getting fewer and fewer. And again, when I'm talking about professional sales, business to business, I would say 99.9% involve a nice base salary. So there are some things out there that are straight commission. And then some people like that because you obviously make more per sale.
Right.
But when I started out, and a lot of people, you like to have that peace of mind
Right.
that you have money regardless of how your month turns out, because sometimes you'll have good months, sometimes not so good. And over the course of the year,
Yeah.
you do have the ability to, define your own success. That's why I never wanted to be a sales manager, because like I said earlier, sales is the only job that I can think of that you can, other than sports, you can make more money than your boss.
Yeah, that blew my mind when you said that. I didn't know that.
When you think about it, with sales, a salesperson, you have unlimited potential, right?
Yeah,
A
commissions.
manager is going to have a high base and then some bonus structure,
Right.
but they're also responsible for 6, 10 salespeople. And, all these people that's your life, your livelihood is dependent upon all these people. I like where my livelihood is dependent upon me.
Right. Yeah. Less stress.
Yeah. I just can't. I get it. I truly believe, being a manager involves an ego somehow, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But it was never for me.
I guess tell us, like, regarding skills. What key skills do you believe are essential for success in a sales career, and how can individuals develop the skills?
Well, again, the biggest one is just, you already have the ability to have a conversation.
Mhm.
It's really good to be inquisitive, to be interested in things. So here's the interesting thing. So my clients are IT. I could have learned a lot more about clients what they were selling,
Right.
but I learned the things that were, needed for them to come on board and use successfully our platform.
Right.
But just, conversations and being interested, the follow-up. I mentioned again about it blows my mind that I still have to talk about this, or I don't have to, I want to,
Right.
is you would be surprised that how much of a mark you can make by just being super quick and replying.
Yeah.
And today, a lot of sales, at the very least, they're hybrid positions, right? But more and more, they're becoming full remote, which I'm a big advocate for. I was just in a thread on LinkedIn this morning, and I go, I can't imagine why anyone would want to work in an office.
Yeah.
You're so much more productive. You don't have the commute. You don't have the wasted time.
You're like my
And
twin. Everything you say, I say. Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, I had clients all over the world. So, if I want to have a 6 o'clock meeting, like right before dinner with someone in Australia, because it's the next morning, you can do that. When I lived in San Diego, I would wake up and reply to emails from bed. It's just, I can't imagine. You just be more productive, and your mental health.
Yeah.
I have a home gym. So, and then there's a big sign there, open 24/7, no excuses.
Yeah.
But if you got 10 minutes before a call, you can go do a couple exercises, or just go outside, and walk your dog. Not here in Oklahoma at the moment, because the heat index is like 400, but
No, I'm the same. I was doing remote long before COVID, and it took a little while to get into a system, but it was that I always feel, at least when I was in the office, I had like an hour train and a half hour walk. So you figure 1, 2, 3 hour commute each day, and everybody coming into the office talking, and go to lunch. And now you're on call from the minute you roll out of bed to the minute you go into bed. And same, I had clients around the world talking to people. It got a little tricky where my husband was like, because this is back in the day too with the Blackberries, he's like, put it down. And I'm like, but the client's waking up now. But you're always, and they know that most people will respect your time. But I always said the same thing. I was like so much more productive because I have, and then, when you would come home and be like, oh my God, I got to do laundry. I got to do, well, here, I could run and it's not like I'm physically washing them by hand. Take 5 minutes, throw them in the machine, come back. I'm less stressed about that stuff. So I agree 100%. I was kind of glad when people started doing it. I'm like, now you see.
It's just so much more productive, and the mental health aspect. I get, I have a son that, would rather be in the office. He's a little bit different. He manages a plant. But just from a salesperson's point of view,
Right.
I can make the case all day long to work remote.
I could say it's not a thing for everybody, because I remember there was somebody else who, every time we had a conversation, you hear the waves crashing in the background, and he would always say, "Oh no, I'm working and I'm on London time and this time," and we're like, "You're at the beach." Like, I hear this, it's not for everyone, because some people, they're not in front of you, they're not doing anything, but eventually the quality will speak for itself. You can tell who's working, tell who's not, and make your decision. That I think that's why some people do the hybrid thing. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. And people feel a lot more at ease, especially if you're doing sales. You don't have to worry about somebody listening. You just tell it like it is, and I'm with you
Yep.
on that one.
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess, can you share some insights into your experience opening new markets and developing non-traditional revenue streams?
Sure. So I mentioned the one about recruitment advertising, and we did some unique things there. That the first is recruitment advertising I did was direct response advertising,
Okay.
meaning you knew for sure whether it worked or not. The car dealer runs 20 ads over the weekend. They have no idea if those ads on WXYZ radio actually help sell X number of cars.
Yeah.
With recruitment advertising, you did, because what we did is so the commercial starts out, "Are you or someone you know a nurse?" So we lost probably 94% of the audience. That's fine. We weren't talking to them.
Right.
But now you're listening if you are.
Right.
And then to talk about this opportunity, and then really pound this phone number that we purchased. We purchased a bunch of phone numbers.
Right.
And you would call that, and it's the second, "Hey, thank you for calling, St. Francis Healthcare Nurse Opportunity Line." And so it's another commercial there.
Right.
And then it's very easy to determine whether that worked or not, because did their messages there?
Right.
A lot of salespeople would be scared of that. He's like, "Oh, that's a lot of accountability." But with everything in life, it's risk versus reward.
Yeah.
And then we did some other cool things, is like the drive-through job fair. I worked for a radio station, so they would promote it, and we'd be out on a corner lot sometime, someday at 5 p.m. and just have these little bags of information from companies who had jobs. They paid us for that, and I hand those out. And another one was where I teamed up with a spa and a florist for a Valentine's Day deal. It was a dozen roses and a massage for whatever it was, $60. And we called it the Rub You the White Way Bouquet.
That's awesome.
And sold a ton of those. And then both the florist and the spa became customers.
Looking to grow your business beyond 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures plus? What I want you to do is go download this book. The title is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. It will help you grow your business past 5, 6, and 7 figure. Go download the book today, growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and download the book for absolutely free.
Wow.
In IT, so the main focus of the company that I retired from in its beginning is their customers were training centers. So training centers all over the world where you would go in and sit down for a 5-day class to learn Microsoft SQL or Excel or whatever. And then they expanded, Microsoft itself became a big client. So when I was brought on board, there was like 30 people when I started. Now there's almost 200. My job was to go find other software companies not named Microsoft. Mm-hmm. So went out, I would hit up their training department and then say, "Well, hey, you're training on people. How about using our labs for certification?" Mm-hmm. And then the biggest one still, it's the biggest sale that I'm aware of in the company's history, is I had a client that was doing a lot of software training with our platform, but they wanted to bring in their help desk people onto the platform, which it was the biggest thing ever that happened, because what they do is they have like 350 help desk personnel around the world. So when they got a ticket from one of their customers, they would spin up their software and add the configuration that their customers are doing to help them figure out, an issue.
Wow. Okay.
And I actually had to sell that to my boss because I went in and said, okay, hey, this is what we want to do. And he goes, no. He goes, that's not what we do. We're doing training. I go, this dwarfs anything we've done. This is $8 million. And we did. We got it. And, it kind of changed things. And one of the last things I did was I signed a health software company and we virtualized MRI machines.
Really?
So it was so cool. Now, again, Bill Becker offered no technical knowledge to that
Right.
program. I was like the project manager, but Paul Gregory and Joel Nix were two of my sales engineers on that because it was almost 2 years. Because you have a company based in Germany, you have to go through all the data privacy things that are dwarf whatever the US has. But it was so cool, it was just something different.
Right. That's what I always love. If it's something like that, unique and different, I'm awesome with that. When it's something just the same, it's like, all right, how do I get you to stand out from everybody else? When it's a little tricky, but yeah, that actually sounds really awesome, and obviously saving time and money for people. So that's nice.
Because you think about that, before that, how do you train on an MRI machine? You had to fly people to an office where they have those. And then by the end, when I left, they were getting ready to actually do a certification exam for an MRI operator on the platform.
Wow, nice. Good work. I guess now tell us about landing major clients. What strategies you found most effective in landing multi-million-dollar clients, and how do aspiring sales professionals apply these strategies?
You already know, because I've mentioned that. Again, you think about this. When you're talking multi-million dollars,
right,
the person that's responsible with the company for making that decision, yeah, they might think, I'm a big shot. I get to make the decision. It's but in the back of their mind is I better not screw this up.
Yeah.
And so when you give someone that peace of mind throughout the process, and when you think about it, a multi-million-dollar sale is going to be months, right? So there's going to be a lot of interactions. Things will go wrong at some point. They always do. How you react to that says a lot. If you try to make excuses or place blame on other things, it doesn't look well on you. I remember this is early on in my career, but it just kind of, it was the first time I was going to do a demo by myself with nobody, my boss or no one else. And it starts out and, I couldn't hear them. They couldn't hear me. So I kind of went full Bill Becker mode and made up a couple new cuss words and trying to get this out. Here's the problem. I couldn't hear them. They could hear me.
Oh, no.
I was so aghast, but to their credit, they thought it was funny because every single person has some mess up, Yeah. I would always joke with people, first time I would meet someone in a Zoom meeting is the key to fame and fortune is not our software, your software, is coming up with a meeting platform that works 95% of the time.
Yeah.
Because there's always technical snafus, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you talk about humor. So humor in sales, how do you incorporate humor into your evangelism about sales careers? And why do you think that that's important?
Well, I do think it's important because, again, it makes you real. My persona has always been self-deprecating, but not everyone has that. And I think, however, there's different types of humor, but when you do that, and it might sound scary, with a prospect, but if you make them laugh, even if it's something just minor, it's okay, Bill's cool. Patricia is not, full of themselves.
Right.
And it just makes hey, this is a human person.
Yeah.
And they're not trying to just always come across like know-it-all. I just push so much. It's don't be afraid to make mistakes and then own it. Because then everyone will go, you know what? If you think about it, and I don't mention, specifics, but everyone can come up with their own examples throughout history of major people in whatever industry. The ones who made mistakes and then tried to cover it up, didn't own it, it never works out, right?
Yeah.
But people that made mistakes and said, I did, not 5 years later after they got caught, but
Right.
right after it happened, and they go, I did this, I'm sorry, I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
They would go, you know what? It's all right. We all do it.
Yeah.
And so I think just, and if you can make a little joke about it at your expense,
Yeah.
that really plays with people.
Yeah.
I hate using the word play, but it resonates with people.
Yeah. Well, it's always funny because I'm blonde and I'm Polish. So I always throw that one out there. Anytime I make a mistake, I'm like, I have the overall excuse for everything, but it is true about owning up to it, even mistakes, so to speak. I was working investor relations for this financial company, and portfolio managers, they invest in stocks. The stock market's roller coasters, they go up, they go down, and stuff happens. What you don't want is to invest with somebody who just sets it and forgets it and goes on vacation. So the stock market's going crazy, your stock's tanking, and they don't care. So there's another portfolio manager who invested heavily in the financials when they were tanking, and he basically realized that, took the money out, reshuffled the portfolio, put it into something that was going really good. So at the portfolio managers meeting, people had asked him, what happened at this point? The stock tanked, and he says, yeah, we took a chance. The financials were doing good. We took a chance. Didn't work out, but it was okay. I took it out. I reshuffled it. Now we're doing better. People loved him so much because he was real. He was honest.
Yeah.
And it was like, he had our best interest at heart because he didn't just set it and forget it and go about his day. So it's okay to make mistakes, own up to it, and just be a real person. And I think people, and these are people who had millions of dollars invested. So it wasn't just your mom and pop. These are people who appreciated that you were still, stuff happens, and you were on top of it. And I think that I just, to this day, this was like 20 something years ago, and I still admire that man for that. I was like, that was really awesome that he was just out front and said it.
You think about it, because that's your money.
Yeah.
So there's some real peace of mind you need from that. It's, if you're spending the company's money, not so much, but it could, mess with your career. And then especially with IT services, something's always going to break.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, look what happened, 10 days ago with CrowdStrike.
Yeah, no one, that affected a large amount of things, but it happens, there's nothing that's, what's the word? Nothing that's immune to anything. There's always going to be an opportunity for something to go wrong.
Yeah.
That's just life. It's just how you roll with it. And that's what's good for a company to be prepared for that. Because even in like the IRPO world, we always try to tell clients, like, let's prepare for a crisis. And they're all like, well, what is this? You're supposed to be working with me, not giving me a crisis. It's like, but things happen. It's better, if something bad happens, do you want to go silent for 12 hours, or do you want to be right up front and center and say, okay, listen, we got this under control. We have a plan already in place. We don't have to figure it out. That puts you way above everybody else. But people don't ever want to prepare, but life happens, It's always good to have a plan.
That is so, so important. And it's the reason why AI is not going to replace human salespeople, because think about this. They're going to do research, and then they're going to talk to you, have specific questions, get answered, and that you got case studies, you have best practices. What's the one thing that it really sets you apart? You can tell them what to do,
Right.
but even more important, you can tell them what not to do.
Right.
And when I sold computer training, my instructors did a lot of consulting on the side. So during the 5-day week, they're reading out of a Microsoft official curriculum book.
Right.
And it was SharePoint. But they also had lots of stories about SharePoint mistakes, because that's most of the consulting they did, was fixing people's mistakes. And so you can know for sure that those students sat up and listened. It's like, okay,
yeah, that happened to me. Yeah.
This should not, don't do this.
Right.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, your eyes glazing over. I know how to set up a SharePoint. I know that. Don't do this, because this could crash everything.
Right.
Knowing what not to do is often more important than knowing what to do.
Yeah. I love, even when I'm ordering something online and it'll have, FAQs, and it'll say all the things that I'm thinking, and they'll put it there, whether it's the good, the bad, the ugly. But now I know, so I can make an informed decision. I love when people do that, because instead of just saying, no, we're perfect. We don't ever have issues buy us. And then you buy it and then you're like, I got 50,000 questions and there's radio silence. It's like, you know, yeah, good stuff.
Reviews are so important, no matter what you're buying.
Yeah. I guess tell us what career development, like what advice do you have for individuals looking to start or advance their careers in sales?
So just know that your future is in your hands. When you're starting out, you have no experience. The important thing I will tell you is you're not going to apply online. You're not going to go through HR. You're not going to go through a recruiter. Why? Because you don't have sales experience. All those entities, all they can do is say is no. Find out whether it's an owner, a senior manager, whatever. If you're going to be a salesperson, you need to live in LinkedIn. Then you can make connections and learn. But ultimately, you want to reach out to someone who can say yes and make your. It's something that's happening a lot right now. One of the areas that I never dreamed that I was going to be working in when I started this, second journey of my life was working with people who have been incarcerated.
Okay.
And you think about all the difficulties of finding a good job today. Now, you were in prison for 3 years. It just became exponentially more difficult.
Yeah.
But the concept's the same. You find out who can say yes. Usually it's the person you want to work for.
Right.
And you get in front of them. You can do it virtually today. There's no secret there. But ultimately, you're going to get in front of them and say, you know what, Bill, this is what's going on in my life, that either you made mistakes or you regret missing out on some opportunities. But what I'm doing now isn't going to give me the future that I want my family deserves. I did figure out, though, that selling your stuff will give me that future. And all you need is one person to sit there and go, holy crap, I just hit the lottery.
Yeah.
This person is so motivated. But the product knowledge, I can teach them.
Yeah.
But they are motivated beyond anything I could do. You still have to produce, but now you have the opportunity. And to produce, again, it's nothing, there's no science, there's tricks or whatever.
Right.
It's just very simple things that people try to make too much of. But you're having a conversation. And you proved that you could get in front of a decision maker here. And that's gonna be a lot. It's like, well, yeah, my last radio job, I happened to see an ad and it said no phone calls. So I dropped off a resume and cover letter and I called him up the next day. And I remember the guy sighed and he goes, the ad said no phone calls. I go, I know it did, and went in and I got hired. Could that have backfired? Yes.
Yeah.
But how can you lose something you don't have yet?
Right.
And as far as to expand your sales career, that's where I'm a big believer in going out and creating your own sales job and then selling it to the company of your choice. You think about that, I always say any idiot can cut expenses. But people that can open up new revenue streams in a different industry or, take the current product and use it in a different way, like we did virtual MRI machines,
Right.
they will get noticed. They will get an opportunity. And that's why I love sales. It's like, think about what you're doing now. This is more for experienced salespeople. Is there a market that you've seen other industries open up that your company isn't into? And you can either do it for your current company. If they're not interested, you go to a competitor and do it. My radio thing, I was doing recruitment advertising and I said, you know what? I hadn't met most of my clients. So let's do this. And it was a huge radio company across the country. So I talked to my boss, he talked to his boss in Atlanta and they said no, which, again, I could not get in front of someone who could say yes.
Right.
So what I did is find, they were called Clear Channel Radio at the time. Now it's called iHeartMedia. Okay. They had 4 senior vice presidents in the world. One of them was like 30 miles away from here. So I called him up, met him at a cafe for breakfast. I had no presentation, nothing. We had a conversation, said, look, I want to start a recruitment advertising division where all your radio stations do recruitment advertising. And he said, yes. When the year started, they had not planned to get into that. They had no budget to pay me to that, but they found the money because I had a good idea.
Right. They just needed to hear it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the
And
right
it's just,
person needed to hear it.
that's why I love sales so much, because it gives you that opportunity to be creative and just set your own agenda.
Yeah. I guess, the future of sales. So what trends do you see shaping the future of sales careers, and how can professionals stay ahead of the curve in the evolving field?
It's good to learn about technology. Now, I'm saying AI is never going to replace things, but there's things that I didn't know about until after I retired. They call these virtual rooms, where if you're doing, multi-million-dollar sale, you have your main contact, but at point other people are going to be on that. So you're doing multi-threads, and then you got all these emails going everywhere, right? Well, there's companies out there that create these, they call them like little meeting rooms. So everything, all the conversations between everybody are right there. And so anyone can go in and look and see what's going on. Technology like that is really good.
Yeah.
The use of video is becoming more and more important when you're reaching out to somebody. It's just a video that you recorded on Zoom or Vinyard or whatever,
Right.
just a quick introduction. You can all go old school with this, because I talk about this as far as getting in front of somebody. Send them a letter in a priority envelope, big red, white, and blue envelope, costs you $10. Nobody gets letters. That's going to get read. And you can have a simple message there with the URL, say got important. I had somebody that I'm working with just last week did the same thing, but with a postcard.
Okay.
So he sent him a postcard, cost him $4, put his picture on there, had a QR code that when you scan it would play the video introduction.
Wow.
So there are some things there that are, you want to keep up on the technology. I think AI is really good for research, can give you ideas like, hey, what are some best practices in medical sales that might transfer over to, manufacturing sales?
Right. Yeah.
And then network with people too.
Yeah. Now, what about like mentoring and things like that? I mean, I don't know. I mean, nowadays it's becoming a thing where people try to mentor other people. Don't know about sales though, because I'm not really my specialty.
Well, yeah, I do that, but it's good. It's really about paying it forward.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons that, I do it. I also have, courses, but I do it all the time just, to pay it forward, because a lot of people did it for me.
Yeah.
And one of the best kind of ways to maybe get into that mentoring is go interview salespeople.
Yeah.
I bet most people don't know who Judd Apatow is. I promise you, most people know his movies. He's one of the biggest comedy writers and producers. Most of the Will Ferrell movies and Bridesmaids and all that. He got his start when he was in high school by interviewing comedians. And he just cold call people, even if they weren't coming to the club in the city that he grew up in. He would cold call them and ask them about their careers and tips for aspiring comedians.
Interesting.
Not only did he get some great knowledge,
Right.
he created this amazing network of contacts. So the same thing with salespeople. I mean, we all love to talk about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So you reach out, just say, hey, I'd love to interview you for this report or book or, documentary I'm making, whatever you do in just a few minutes, and you'll learn some stuff and you'll have a great contact that you could reach out to.
Yeah. Oh, makes sense. Now I'm going to include it on here, but as well, but just tell us a little bit about the book and your courses.
Okay. So yeah, the job nobody dreams of came about because of, it's like, hey, no one grows up wanting to be a salesperson. So it's kind of the dispels the myths of sales and how you can go out and get your first sales job without any experience.
Okay.
And then the courses I have, and what I tell people in the opening video, in the promotional video for the course, is the first thing you need to know about the course. You don't need the course. Everything is in the book to do that. But if you want some more accountability, if you want to dive deeper into some subjects, if you want some accountability buddies and kind of that mentoring, because there's monthly live Q&A sessions.
Okay.
So there's a lot of opportunities there to hone your skills, define the message that you want to do, help, even just it's like, hey, where do I go? Where do I start? It's like,
Right.
it's just, sometimes you just need to bounce
Yeah.
ideas off with just another human, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They'll think of stuff maybe you didn't even think about, Yeah.
Exactly. When I sold computer training, this is old school. Actually, it started when I was selling radio, that I started this org of other people just like me, non-traditional revenue sellers.
Right.
And they would send in an email once a month with an idea they used to create some revenue.
Okay.
And so they'd all come in, and then I would send them back out, because something that worked in Cincinnati might work in Tulsa. The same thing I'm doing with the homeless initiative is I'm bookmarking, successful ideas, because what works in Tulsa might work in Denver.
Right.
And so, and again, you look for success stories that you can share your own,
Right.
and then learn from others.
Very, very nice. Anything else that we didn't touch on that you want to talk about?
No, I just if you go into sales, the only way it fails is if you treat it as a job of last resort. And I've seen that.
Yeah.
I think the thing that just stays in my mind, back when I first started interviewing salespeople, there was this early 20s kid making six figures. And this is 20 years ago, making six figures selling cars. And then shortly thereafter, went out to get a family vehicle. And of course, anytime I see a salesperson, I talk to them, right? This guy was very nicely dressed. He's probably, early 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And he was apologizing. He goes, yeah, this is something I'm doing until something better comes along.
Wow.
It's like, dude, kid half your age.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that became self-fulfilling. So as I always say, I know I could have said that in fewer words, but do not treat it as the job of last resort.
Yeah.
It should be your last job, because it can give you everything you want in your life.
Right. I guess one thing I've heard with people is the rejection. Like some people just don't want to ever be told, no, sorry, not interested or whatever. So they have this fear of rejection constantly. So they're afraid to sell something for fear that they might get rejected. I've heard that. Obviously, they're not in sales. But that's why they claim they won't go into sales.
but that's, you can find that you're getting rejected in life, and you just don't. But think about this. If you get 3 hits out of 10 in baseball, you're going to make $30 million.
Yeah,
it's just, it's just nobody bats 1,000. It's fine. You can learn from those. That there's things that I talk about in the training and stuff, is like the fact that someone's going to meet with you, probably they're interested. And so if you don't close, you try to learn something. Hey, what was the reason? And a lot of times they won't tell you because they don't want to hurt your feelings, but sometimes they will. Yeah. And you just learn from that.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. But I agree. Got to be in it to win it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how can people get a hold of you or learn more about you?
You can go to thejobnobodydreamsof.com or academy.thejobnobodydreamsof.com.
Nice. Well, thank you again for being on the show. Again, that was Bill Becker. So thanks for listening to Successful Minds with Patty B. Never miss an episode by subscribing. So thank you again.
Thanks, Patty.
My pleasure.
Hey, we all want to scale our business. Hey, I have the answer for you today to help you do that. If you're looking to scale from 5, 6, even 7 figures and beyond, book called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. I'm going to give it to you for free. All you have to do is type in growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and you can download the book for absolutely free. I hope the book helps you this year. Take your business to the next level. Again, go grab the book, growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. cash. I wish you the best and grow, scale, and win.
Thank you for listening to Successful Minds with your host, Patricia Baronowski-Schneider. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.
There it is. Magnum. Holy moly.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
Dear God. It's beautiful.